Little RTD live talk, late night YouTube talk show. Wanted to check in, see who's available. Attempted to take a couple days off from talking about bad news, but it looks like I wanted to connect and see who's available and share with you what's going on in the state of Michigan. And so, as of the last 24 hours, our governor decides to roll out the plans for reopening for this Memorial Day weekend. And I'm not too happy about it because my city of Detroit is the last one that's scheduled to be open as of now, and it's all subject to how things develop up north. So that being the case, won't be on long. Just want to check in, see how's everybody doing, and see what else is going on out there. And so, more than enough bad things to talk about, but yet, it's obvious by now. Everybody knows everything's coming apart at the seams. So I thought I would take a day or two off and not talk about all that other unfortunate stuff. But that being the case, let me see who's tuning in. As always, if we have any new viewers, typically not my usual format of streaming, but just want to check in real quick from the cell phone, say hello, and see what else is going on out there. And also, any other subject matters worthy of talking about. How's the reopening process in your neck of the woods? Let me know via chat. Definitely would love to acknowledge that. So let me see top of the chat. Let me open this chat up. So we got Spirit King, got Miss D in the building. How's everybody doing? We got Fat Slim from Milwaukee. How's the opening up process in the great state in your neck of the woods, rather? So yeah, I wanted to just check in briefly. Traffic outside is definitely picking up. Interesting. So you got Philly traffic outside. So yeah, so I was you know, my alert went off on my phone, and it's an explanation as to how Governor Whitmer has broken Michigan into 8 regions for the reopening plan. And so, given the fact that this weekend coming up is Memorial Day weekend, and like always, there's always a lot of festivities, a lot of activities, a lot of gatherings and whatnot. And I'm hearing all types of bad stories of how politicians don't want the public out there celebrating and commemorating all um, the soldiers that have sacrificed for this country throughout the years by posting flags and doing things that typically is done in prior times. And so Tasha says Texas has opened up. The South is not taking it, laying down. That's good to hear. I'm also hearing a lot about the fudging of numbers in Texas. So curious to hear about that. It says, but I'm concerned with the energy vulnerability. Energy. So I had to pull up Agenda 21 region map. I have not pulled that map up, so I'm curious to see what that looks like. I might need to do that. Says I heard that our district is having a virtual selection ceremony for this year's games. Virtual selection ceremony, really. Says can't control people in hot weather, and that's the biggest thing. Like right now in Michigan, we're still getting weather's still spotty. Sometimes it's warm, sometimes it's cold. Today, the weather got better, but it hasn't been consistent yet. So that's one reason why it's not too hard to keep people pent down up in Michigan because the weather's not cooperating. It says they're fighting the governor applied 1 billion towards testing and the contact tracing in Wisconsin. Really? Yeah, we'll see how that works. And so I've heard some very man like some so Nathaniel, how you doing, my friend? I heard, I think it was New Orleans. I posted an article on the blog the other day about New Orleans and a couple of them southern states, how they've been given permission to open up some restaurants and things of that nature, but yet you have to take down your visitors' personal information. So you got to catalog what time they came in and what they ate. And I'm thinking like, wow, at that point, I know me personally, I wouldn't be going to a restaurant if they asked me for an ID to to take down my whole history of what I'm doing there. I'll just say, yeah, I'll pass. And I think a lot of restaurants will probably end up getting away from that. Nathaniel, what's up, my friend? Says we're in the South, Texas. Everyone was still wearing a mask in my town. I was the only one without a mask. Yeah, here in Michigan, outside of yeah the older population, I think more people I see wearing masks. Not not on average, but that's just what I've noticed. So yeah, I just want to check in real quick. But yet, a reopening process, man. Like we're entering into summer months, so I'm trying to really gauge how the reopening process will open up for Michigan due to for a variety of reasons. And so So what Governor Whitmer and everyone around the country has heard, and how authoritative she appears to be with with her stance on a lot of things. But it is what it is. Like I mentioned before, we're on lockdown, but we're really not on lockdown. Apart from, I'm sure you guys heard about the barber in Owasso, which is about an hour and a half north of Detroit, and he's a 77-year-old guy who was forced to shut down his barbershop, and he didn't comply. And so the state troopers came and they said, we're not going to shut you down. But then the attorney general and everybody else came, they shut him down and hauled him away and took away his barber's license and everything else. So it was very sad to hear that he didn't qualify for small business loan, he didn't qualify for unemployment for some reason, and so he's like, I need to work. So he opened up his barbershop, and sure enough, they shut him down and arrested him. So that's bad news. But I just want to thumb through you a little bit what's going on here in Michigan for those that are curious, because this is the first time I've ever heard of our state of Michigan being broken into 8 regions. And it says, and so for those that have not been to Michigan, the northern UP area by Mackinac and in the Glove to the northwest side is very touristy. And so during the holiday weekend, typically everybody drives up north who either have property up there or who just want to hang out up north because it's extremely beautiful up there. They have a lot of vineyards or whatnot. So it's it's an escape getaway for a lot of people. And so due to, I guess, the typical historical routine that people take of driving north, they decided to open up the 8th and the 6th region, which happen to be the Mackinac area as well as the Traverse City area for this upcoming weekend. And as of now, they'll have some bars, restaurants, and some retail stores available for people to go shop and to hang out or whatnot. But yet the rest of the state is still basically on lockdown. And so the very last region, which will be able to open up, and it's all subject to 3 things here in the state of Michigan. It is, let me read it to you real quick. The 3 areas that, apparently they're looking for information is the amount of cases per, says the region's reopening depends on 3 things: lower case numbers per million, downward trends and new daily cases, and the number of positive tests. So as if like those numbers, they're really going to be able to gather that data in a timely manner to be able to open up other regions within the next couple of days after the holiday weekend. So once again, they're trying to prolong this thing a lot longer than it needs to be. And so outside of restaurants and recreational sport and events type of things opening up, everybody in the lower portion of Michigan is doing what they want to do anyway. And so I'm curious to find out what's going on in your neck of the woods. Let me know. And I'm curious to hear. Let me check back in with the chat. And as always, if you guys want to call in, try giving me a call. The number is in the description here. We'd love to hear your story or what's going on in your world as well. Won't be on long. Just wanted to plug in from the cell phone, say hello, check in, trying to dial back from all the bad news that seems to be piling up. It says Louisiana opened up only 25% of occupancy. The Tampa Bay area is about 85%. It's almost like nothing happened. Business is booming for big box stores. Really, that's good news, Jay. Grocery stores here in Milwaukee are monitoring who is wearing a mask and who isn't. Yeah, that's the thing. Like some stores here, the sign says, please have on one, but if you don't wear one, you still can come in. So so they're not too strict in enforcing that. Rolf said, America is entering its 4th turn in 2021. 4 long wave cycles have converged that signal the end phase of an empire. The U.S. empire is a collapse phase. Central banks can't reverse this process. I would agree. And so knowing that, and so let me see, I was meaning, I was meaning to, let me take this call here. Hello, caller. What's your name? Where you calling from? Dwayne from Michigan, my friend. How you doing, boss man? What's in your mind?
Yeah. I got a question. I want to pick your brain.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
You think those 8 regions can be sold off in the state?
You say sold off?
Yeah.
How so? Give me.
Because the reason why I think of that, because a friend of mine, he got a letter from his city. I'm not gonna say what city he in, but they sent him something about his property, and when they quoted the law about He had, long story short, he had a situation with his property. They were trying to say something while he had to move some debris from his property. And when he showed me the letter quoted international law.
Okay, oh, that's something different.
Not U.S. law, not Michigan law, but international law. And I said, like, why would they be quoting like international law standards?
Yeah. So I've never heard of that. So it looks like that might be the beginning of something that we might need to talk about. You know, I would say if you can try to get a screenshot from your buddy, you know, jot out his personal information and email it to me. I would love to look into it further. Because if that is the case, I don't know about selling. I don't know about, you know, confiscating people's property, give or take if they open up too soon or whatnot. But once again, we're in a national state of emergency type of environment. So I'd imagine there's a lot of rules that we're not aware of that might apply to us, even though we'll probably fall under them. So that's something worth looking into, but I'm not aware of that.
Yeah, but I'm just saying though, if you change the law, like you got to start waking up.
Yeah.
Because if your laws change, the country is its laws.
Yeah.
If we're not under the Constitution, Bill and Right, that means we're under a different country. Like we're not the United States no more.
Right. I would imagine we've probably already passed that point. Like, you know, I haven't really heard much. I've heard stories about I've heard crazy stories out there, but they've been around the U.S. as far as people, you know, going in houses, you know, pulling people out because they're concerned for their mental health without having to have a search warrant or any type of jurisdiction whatsoever to just grab people out their house. So that right there lets me know that, you know, we're not operating under normal natural law. So I wouldn't be surprised if that type of stuff occurs. So,
okay,
yeah, something to keep our eyes on, man. Keep me informed with that, because definitely we need to hear more about that if something develops from that story.
Okay, no problem.
Appreciate you, my friend. Thanks. Yeah, that's something different. I haven't heard about that, but definitely, you know, all gloves are off at this current moment because of this so-called national emergency that we've been put under. So state of emergency is like martial law. Very true. So the fact that the person got a letter saying that their property, you know, could be confiscated or sold or something like that that's a whole other ballpark there. And so I meant to do an article, or not an article, but a video yesterday talking about the amount, you know, so there's a story here in Detroit about landlords and whatnot. And a lot of real estate investors are experiencing a little bit of a pinch, being that they're not in position to really do much when it comes to tenants not paying. And so I think it's 6 months here, if I'm not mistaken, in Michigan, that they have forbearance, and then I want to say they're going to extend that. So imagine all the very unhappy people out there that may not be getting compensated. But then I've heard some people finding out ways to work around the system by offering incentives and discounts so people pay early. So that's another way to try to get people to come out of some of those funds. Says, did anyone find Congress over the top, polite tone to Jerome today? It was awkward to listen to these typical fierce debaters and name callers kiss the Fed ring. So yeah, that's another thing. That fact they call him your Mr. What they say? It's that whatever that however they pronounce that they announce his name. I forgot it, however it is, but yeah, and that's the thing, man. They know the name of the game and they have to play along with it. But at the end of the day, Jerome Powell's made it obvious that he's going to do whatever it takes. And that's been the case forever. And just the fact he's been lying, talking about the economy was good before all this happened. You know, everybody who watches alternative media know that the economy is not doing well. King Adua says HR 66666. Yeah, we've talked about that before here. It was in the House last time I checked, and I wasn't sure that it went through officially. But that is something that's a part of their game plan. Here in the state of Maryland, 2 out of 24 counties are on lockdown. 2 out of 24 are on lockdown, really. So that's not bad at all, given the fact the majority of the state is open. It says, have plan for Afro people. Yeah, like the biggest question that I'm looking forward to hearing more information on is about international travel. At what point will we be allowed in this country to be able to get back to some international travel according to certain regions and their situation there? But We will see. So Latasha says Obama signed Executive Order 1603. I am not familiar with that executive order, but I will definitely check into it. So the fall into tyranny and abandonment of the rule of law, where the elites are above the law, is a prime signal of an empire in collapse. I would agree. I would agree. And so for me personally, we're at the end of May now, heading into the summertime. And so here in Michigan, I'm anticipating, if everything goes according to their plan, as far as them sticking to their 6 phases and those 3 categories, not taking steps backwards, then we should hopefully be able to be up in full swing by the middle of June. Now it's a matter of what does that look like, because the restructuring, like there will be no recovery. There will be a restructuring. Hello, caller. What's your name? Where you calling from?
My name is Alan.
Alan, how you doing, my friend?
From
North
Carolina.
North Carolina. Okay, what's on your mind, my friend?
Just wanted to let you know that the governor still has had a crackdown. Well, not really a crackdown, but still not allowing people to kind of go to church on Sunday. And evidently, there's been a lot of pushback here. And so what happened is that they filed a lawsuit against the governor. And long story short, about a day or 2 later, they come to find out that it was unconstitutional. And so now we are allowed to congregate inside the churches now. So I guess I'm saying that that's good news for those who want to congregate inside the church.
Yeah.
And I guess evidently, if you get enough people together and push back against things, evidently the government has to relinquish some of that authority that they believe that they have whenever the people push back. So if the government push, if the people will push back too.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. So we had the same situation here where where just, I think it was about a week or 2 ago, 3 churches got together here and filed a lawsuit against the state, and they within a day or 2 decided to push, remove that, sign Executive Order 2017, allowing churches and places of worship to reassemble and gathering. So I do agree with what you're saying, my friend. And so we need to do more of that in more areas, I think.
Oh, yeah.
All right, my man. Appreciate you calling.
All right, thank you.
Yep. Yeah, man, that's real stuff there, man. Like, so whenever the people gather together and make enough of a fuss, it'll be hard to ignore us. And so the question is, what other areas should we be gathering in, making a fuss? And so I would assume people should be gathering locally, but yet we need to gather, unify across this country because of the financial system and what's going on right now, man. People don't really realize, a lot of people, and a lot of people I've come across and family members that I've talked to that, don't really realize how significant the current response to this crisis, how disastrous it will be short term and definitely long term. People have not really truly learned that once all this fake, as I put it, legally counterfeited currency is put out there, they can never withdraw that back. And so they can only continue to create more of it. So what does that do to those that still operate under outdated financial information? The idea, I was watching Chris Hogan from Dave Ramsey just a moment ago talking about the baby steps. And I'm thinking like, wow, like we're entering into a monetary restructuring of our entire global system. And they're still talking about those 7 steps without making any adjustments to them. Still using the words money, like, telling people to save money. And I'm thinking like, if you save currency the way that they're, you'll never be able to outsave as much as they're going to create in the short term, nevertheless, the long term. So I wish that more financial individuals were able to really speak the truth as opposed to speak according to what they've been licensed to be able to share information wise. But to each his own. That's why we have alternative media for now. And so it says, Johnny Boy says, less than 3K dead in California. Millions were modeled to die. It's not even regular flu. And the pandemic continues. Right. And so, let me know, Johnny Boy, because I just heard from somebody in the alternative media that initially they were going to extend it to July. And so I heard something about, they threw out the word August. So let me know if August is the case, because that is extremely frightening to be on lockdown and not have a severe cases like that. Hello, caller. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, Mike, I'm Brian from Cody, Wyoming.
Cody, Wyoming, my friend. How you doing? What's on your mind?
Well, I'm doing well, buddy. Hey, I just want to give a shout out to you in regards to your silver recommendations. You were spot on, man.
Thank you, kind sir.
I've been getting my weight up for quite a while now since I've been watching it for the last couple of years. And, man, 1769 today closed that. Just out of curiosity's sake, where do you see it going?
Where do I see it going? It's going to go, okay, so it's going to go the opposite of the value of currency. So as currency goes down, metals have to go up. And so the timing, no one knows, but I would rather be stuck holding something hard and cold than hold something either digital or something that can blow in the wind. So, we can't time anything. We know that just as the Federal Reserve and the government continue to do the only thing they know how to do, we can rest assured that the opposite will happen in the metals, as they have to respond in a positive way for those that hold them, I believe.
They do. I've dabbled in Bitcoin a little bit, and I play with cryptocurrencies to an extent, but that's some pretty volatile stuff. I think your sort of recommendations are a whole lot better for a safe haven.
Yeah, and that's the thing. So in me, as I've always mentioned, gold and silver is money. Like, it's been historically that way. Look at it that way. It's not something you want to just. It doesn't grow. It just sits there and look pretty. But then, as everything around us happens, it unfolds. It always turns out to be something people can rely on. And as far as cryptocurrency, I do believe there'll be opportunity in it. I wouldn't bank on it. I wouldn't depend upon it, because now that the whole sector has been distorted because of greed. And so there's more people concerned with profit as opposed to their privacy. So with that being the case, once the big institutions get into it, I'm not sure they're gonna have the outcome that they hope they would have had one day with Bitcoin to the moon type stuff. It's gonna go up, but I'm assuming the powers that be that may not want to go too high unless they're all the way in. So yeah, we'll see.
Hey, man, I agree with you wholeheartedly, man. It's kind of scary. I obviously watch it too much because I agree with you 100%.
Appreciate you, my man. Thanks for calling. Be good. Yeah, appreciate the call, man. It's good to hear that people out there are taking heed to sound monetary advice. And so I can't give financial advice, but I consider myself someone that can share monetary history with you. And just anybody who looks at the history books, you can see the importance of things that people were able to hold themselves or have easier access to it, and with minimum counterparty risk. And so let me check back in with the chat. It says, give me $5K from the government, all these years of taxes I shouldn't have had to pay. So here's another thing. Listening to Larry Kudlow today on one of those news channels, it looks like President Trump wants to really begin to provide a different type of stimulus in the form of the payroll tax, as well as a minimizing of capital gains tax. And so once again, it looks like on the surface, the goal is to incentivize employers by cutting some of their expenditures and allowing employees to receive a little bit, small increments of their tax money back. But then on the capital gains side, those that are heavy net worth individuals and invest in actual tangible assets and businesses and things, they may have a little tax cut. And one of the things I thought about was, I wonder will they allow that to apply when it comes to people wanting to cash out in cryptocurrencies, because that, as of right now, is considered as an asset that is subject to capital gains tax. So that could be favorable for those that have exposure to the cryptocurrency sector down the line. If President Trump decides to cut capital gains tax, that means you get to benefit from that as well. So as well as everything else. And so Fast said, I have BTC on ledgers, been buying silver since the mid 2000s. They will just make gold and silver illegal to hold the way they did in 1930. This is a satanic operation. Yeah, and it's one of the things where I think by order or by law, you can pretty much sign any order or law into existence. But yet, as we're witnessing now, we're witnessing firsthand certain law enforcement officers, sheriffs, and whatever around the country not really abiding by a lot of things that they are being told to do, because they themselves even mention that it's unconstitutional. So with that frame in mind, I'd imagine there's going to be a lot more law enforcement that aren't in the same boat. Every law enforcement, every first line operator, whatever, their paychecks is in the very same currency that the alternative media is telling people you better be aware of. And so it's only just a matter of time before law enforcement realize that even though they were hired to protect and serve, and they got a badge and a gun, outside of them enforcing laws, they're no different than anybody else. Those pensions and those retirement funds and those paychecks is not they're not immune to what's happening out in the public to everybody else. So once they realize that they're getting paid in something that doesn't really do much for them as well, I don't think they're going to be enforcing a lot of those laws against people. And Via says N95s are worth more weight. Are worth more weight. Okay, I mean, definitely they serve their purpose, and I imagine right now they're still scarce. So you can definitely, if you have some, you definitely in a favorable position. The thing says, Mike, what's up with that damn breach up there? Liquidity everywhere, man. So yeah, so if just from a 60-minute interview with a gentleman and the questions that was asked to Jerome Powell, he mentioned we're just flooding the system. He's like, yeah, we're basically they're flooding the world with currency. So, and once again, the response that they have done to this point is only 90 days old, less than 90 days old up front. But then when the repo market began acting a fool back in September, so September, October, November, December, January, February, March, April, May. So it's been 9 months now that the Federal Reserve has been providing liquidity through lending windows and stuff like that. So once again, like I said in the very beginning, once they roll it out there, they can't reel it back in. So the only thing they can do is do more of that. So yeah, we're just in the beginning. So if you know that, it buys you a little time to take some of this funny legally counterfeited currency that might be coming your way and turn it into your good, however that is. And so Yas King says everything is going digital. So is your currency. No doubt, everything is already digital. If people really knew that they could not go down to their bank right now and get physical paper, then they would really trip out. Like, I was Jerome Powell when he kept mentioning that 2008, 2009, it was a liquidity problem in the banking sector. This time it's not the banking sector. They're strong, they're healthy. I'm thinking like, okay, strong and healthy according to what? Because once again, the M2 has increased, but yet the actual paper base has increased as well, but it's not out in the streets yet. So they're still on pallets in the vaults. So once again, you got about 16, maybe 17 trillion now, but you only got maybe under 2 trillion worth of physical paper available. That ratio doesn't add up. So I think as people wake up to the hoax of fractional reserve lending, they'll realize that no matter what you got in your vault on your screen in the form of digital value, if you can't go down to the vault and get it out in a timely manner, then you really don't have anything. Take on the other metals. My Tifo says, yes, please take on the other metals. Yeah, so at this point, as I always mention, according to historical matters, the periodic table, all the metals, base metals as well as precious metals, have extreme value because they're either something we can use to trade for barter, or they're used in the manufacturing of goods and services. And there's always going to be need for cell phones and computers and all types of things, and houses and pipes and plumbing. And so all that stuff will hold value in a world where they're creating more than enough digits and paper. We've been digital since 71. So gentlemen, very true. I think I would probably say we've been more than digital before 71. I'm not sure when the actual computer model or where a computer was implemented into the banking system itself, without them having to use actual notepad and pen for their ledgers. But once the computerized ledgers were created, that's when we went digital. And so that's just it only expanded the fractional reserve and made it easier for them to take a $10 or take $1 and spin off 10 of those same units in the form of a loan. Gentlemen, negative rates. Yeah, so here's the thing. Like this past weekend with the Wise Guys talk, negative rates it's baked into the cake, because the rates that are always thrown out there when it comes to the overnight lending between banks, it's always a follow-up to the actual borrowing cost on I think it's the 2-year Treasury. And so wherever it goes, so does the rates for the banks themselves. So right now they're already approaching negative. So it's just a matter of time. So one thing you can bank on, and I think what Jerome Powell is trying to do, and all the other Fed people, they're trying to not give it away that they got to go negative. They're doing the best they can to say we're not going negative. It wouldn't work, but yet they don't have much of a choice, even though they have tools they keep talking about. Hello, caller. What's your name? Where you calling from? Hello? Going once, going twice. Connection was lost. All right, give me a call back. We'll try to get you on here. Apologize for that. It says, if I'm not ever paying with gold, I'm not ever paying with gold. So once again, at this current moment, I'm not a fan of paying for anything other than in these digital units of distraction, or as I call them, the financial weapons of financial weapons of wealth destruction. That's what the fiat currency notes are around the world. So a lot of people, especially the majority of the people might be watching it's from America. That says America. And so think about all the other countries that's experiencing the same issues, but their currencies have already gone belly up. And so think about this. If you were in, just say like Lebanon, for example, they've been having issues. At this current moment, the currency has lost a significant amount of purchasing power. And so you would not be wanting to spend anything other than that thing. Hello, Carlo. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, Mike, it's Pete in the People's Republic of Colorado.
Pete, how you doing, my friend? Good to hear your voice. What's on your mind?
I was just curious about something.
Go ahead.
You look pretty tired. You look pretty down.
I called myself taking some time off from the bad news, but when I started talking about Michigan being broken into 8 regions, and Detroit metropolitan area is the last region to be open as of now, that doesn't put a smile on my face at the end of the day.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you about.
Yeah.
You know that you get to vote with your feet.
Mm-hmm.
Has this experience, made you question which local government you choose to own you?
Does it make you? So yeah. So I clearly I'm starting to really pay more attention to my local state, and not necessarily my local city, but I'm more aware of what's happening in the state of Michigan now than I have been in quite some time, for these exact same reasons.
No, but you choose to live there.
Yeah, I definitely do.
You choose a far less government.
I do, yeah.
Does that cross your mind?
At this current moment, I have not thought about it, even though, in the future, Michigan was not going to be my final destination. So I'm being convinced more and more that it's time to start reconsidering, rethinking my geographical location at this current moment. So it has crossed my mind, yes.
No, I was just going to say that I was taking advantage of this downtime to renovate some units, and I actually went down to Denver last week, and I was just appalled at what I saw and how things were, and where I live, everything seems more or less normal.
Yeah, really. So it's like the restaurants and the retail shops, and is that type of stuff still has activity? As far as, are they doing carryouts only, or are they like open for customers inside? And
we don't have any restaurants or any retail shops in my area.
Oh, okay.
I'm really rural.
Yeah.
So, I mean, so it would take a lot for things to be obvious here.
Yeah.
When I went down into civilization, I was just like mind blown. Like, how are you people keeping your sanity, like living like that?
Yeah.
I saw playgrounds with tape around them. I mean, what the hell? What are you guys doing?
Yeah, we got a couple of those around here, but kids still find their way on them. So yeah, and on top of that, our weather hasn't really been cooperating much. So it's rained several days, and it was snowing last week and too. So the weather has really kept us in more than anything else. But the days where the sun was shining, everybody's out. It's just there's nowhere to go really, other than the grocery store, and I'm tired of hanging out in the grocery store. So.
Well, all I can say
in a vacation area.
Mm-hmm.
We're having one of the worst Mays on record, and they are all coming here.
Really?
And I don't blame them.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, hey, man, it's good to hear your voice.
No, I just don't understand why the majority of people, 85% in the United States, live in a town or a city.
Yeah.
Never understood that, but especially now, and I'm really curious, are people going to question that at this point?
Yeah. Definitely. So as a result of all this, I think it gives us a lot to chew on because, apart from having been born in this region, I never really intended on settling down here at the end of at the latter part of my years, but it's definitely causing me to think a lot sooner on what I want to do for me and the family and everybody else. So, yeah, it has crossed my mind, Pete. I must admit.
Well, even in the Soviet Union, if you were out in the country, you were a lot more free than if you were in the city.
Yeah, very, very true. And so I'm all the commentators that I've interviewed and whatnot, said when stuff hits the fan, you don't want to be in heavily populated areas, cities and things like that. So, yeah. And if I had the ease of just up and out, I probably would have done so already, but still putting together that final game plan, I guess. Oh, man. Yeah, man. Well, I appreciate you, man. It's good to hear your voice.
Absolutely. Take care.
Yeah, you too.
Goodbye.
Yeah. Pete from Colorado. Yeah, Pete was one of the viewers that called in or been a faithful member of the community for a while ago, and I actually came on the show and interviewed him, and had a great interview. So if anybody new to the channel wondering who that is, just Pete from Colorado. In the search, put Rethinking a Dollar Pete. Something should come up. You get a chance to see that interview. It was a great interview sitting down with Mr. Pete. So what we got here? It says, let me check in via chat. It says, when dudes call, he got the concise stuff. It says, what the hell is going on in Michigan? Yeah, so Michigan is, apart from me, seeing an article mentioning about being broken into 8 regions, I'm thinking like we've never, apart from having just counties, I've never known about having regions, but yet it's all a part of the orders, I would imagine, that's been given to Governor Whitmer. So no doubt she's following some type of higher game plan or agenda, because it's good to say I'm not confident saying that she came up with this or her administration came up with this plan. But the areas that open first are 8 and 6, which are at the very top. So we got the island up here, and then this area and this over here, if you look at the glove, which are heavy touristy areas during this current holiday season. So I'm not surprised at all. And I wouldn't even be so bad to say that she's affiliated or got some property or got some restaurant. She probably has some business up in this region where it definitely will benefit her to have some of her stuff open or people in her circle or whatnot. So, yeah, crime BTC. So, yeah. So that being the case, we'll see. But once again, outside of just the retail restaurants and the athletic facilities not being open, everything else is normal. So it's interesting. But by mid-June, we will all be able to see what exactly is going on, because I believe that because of numbers, I think more news sources are starting to question the narrative on numbers. And so I would imagine that the numbers were not high enough to really full force their agenda. So I could see some type of, I can't say false flag, but I can say I can see some type of surprise coming, whether they say it's going to be the second. I heard people say the second wave of this flare up and stuff like that. But I think, be on the lookout for something faulty to arise within the next couple of weeks, because if this, what we just are currently experiencing, we all know the numbers aren't real, but yet if it's not strong enough for them to continue the type of response, medical wise, monetary wise, fiscal wise, they're going to need more. So they will definitely create something to really ramp this thing up, because you got to justify trying to stimulate everybody, try to extend an unemployment, extra benefits, to create that new payment processing system to get us under a new, reserve, new domestic currency they want to roll out, the digital dollar. So they're gonna need a lot more of this. And right now, I don't think people are not as scared, especially this summer, June, July, August. The weather's good. People will probably not pay attention to these restrictions. Therefore, it's going to make it hard for politicians to really truly enforce what they want their agenda to continue to be. So be on the lookout for something else along with that. So Johnny Boy says the next wave is the 5G implementation causing illness. Well, like I mentioned before, within the 2 months of being locked down, I ended up getting out when we had some good weather and did some driving along a lot of major freeways, and I noticed a gang of new towers set up that were never there prior to the lockdown. So the telecommunications industry was probably booming during that so-called lockdown, where everybody was indoors. Workers are out there putting up them poles left and right because they are up there. So we will see. Says NYC doctors and nurses are speaking out, saying the ventilators killed more. Really, I heard something about that, and so the fact that now we're now exporting ventilators to other countries right now. So yeah, yeah. So that's the thing, man. Like people, I think from this, if individuals such as you guys watching start to share more alternative media, whoever your favorite people are who share information that causes people to think, just as we share this information more, we'll educate more people, but the most important thing is we'll get them to start questioning things. Like at this current moment, you should question everything. Never believe anybody for what they say until you can go do your research and back it up and validate it for yourself. Spirit King says, did you know the Spanish flu killing millions? That didn't happen on the first wave. It was the second, and that killed many. So Spirit, great point. So I wasn't aware of how that actually went down. But with that being the case, that looks like that's something that I would imagine the entities are trying to further push that 18-month time frame before a vaccine can be implemented. So we got Jerome Powell talking about we may not see a recovery, a sustainable, sufficient, and efficient recovery until there's a way to address the health problem we have, which once again doesn't cure, doesn't solve. It just only helps supposedly provide some immunity for those that might come across it again, but we'll see. So yeah, everybody bought into the 18-month agenda. So that's basically telling us that they would like to, in a worst case scenario, see this thing go for 12 months to 18 months. Therefore, they're gonna need something else to jump off. Now think why they're reopening and don't want you to use masks. They need a bigger wave to justify martial law. Well, hey, that sounds right up their alley, I would assume. Spirit, I do agree with you wholeheartedly on that one. ICU says, how about you just go to the pawn shop, pick up that old gold you can and want? Yeah, so I would imagine if you could find some, the premium on top of it will be extremely high. But at this current moment, given the circumstances, I would say that there's no premium too high to get physical right now, to get your weight up. It says, once people don't have food, they're going to sell gold. Is going to do much gold for sale. ICU, that is definitely going to be a possibility. That is definitely possible. And so, when it comes to the metals, that's only practical financial preparation. That's it. That's all it's good for. You're only able to store some of your economic output in something while they're devaluing, debasing the currencies to oblivion, but yet you have to make other preparations as well. So it's not all encompassing just metal. So that's not the beginning and the end of everything. That's just something practical that people should do, I think. It says, do you think a war is coming? El Monte. Man. As much as I don't want to see that, I can't help but continue to notice the back and forth between China and the U.S., but yet it looks like China might be playing along with it because they're going to allow the WHO, the World Health Organization, to come in and do some investigative type of stuff after all this dies down, which means that could be a couple years, give or take their situation. So in between there now and then, I wouldn't doubt if more alternative media and more people wake up to the fact that this whole situation is well overblown, and they start to resist in some form or fashion. I can imagine, in order to get people caught back up into some type of distraction, then they might end up trying to do something via war wise. So I wouldn't put that past the people who want destruction. The destruction is profitable, unfortunately. And so Sick PC said, I'm waiting for post to come 19,000 worth of gold. Yeah, in a world of $19,000 gold, that means a dollar. Yeah, that means the Federal Reserve note, rather, is not something that people will actually want to be holding on to. We might have a lot of chaos in the streets on that day. U.S. needs to be forced into the International Criminal Court. Good luck with that. Good luck with that. Who's going to force them? I'm resisting no mask. Apart from certain places, I'll wear it just because. It doesn't bother me too or not to wear. Just more so if people I'm around are concerned and scared, I'm not going to be that one that try to prove a point by not wearing one. It will not help me as far as helping them to see the bigger picture if I approach them as like a complete lunatic in their mind. Gold and silver up and Bitcoin ready to spring. I ain't mad if it does. Buy food. Very true. All you guys feel for the okie doke. All you guys feel for the okie doke. Yeah, the mainstream media does a good job of painting fear. And then when you have, one or two people in your circle or one or two people not too far from you that, fall victim to some type of illness and is tagged as that, C19, it'll definitely get some people to think. The beast artificial intelligence in conjunction with 5G. Yeah, all that stuff is still in play, man. In this decade of 2020 to 2030, we will see the rollout of all the things that they would like for us to partake in between face face recognition, the thermal scanning that's going to be at the airports in order to fly. You got to have your temperature taken. All that stuff, drones, internet things, virtual reality, all that stuff is going to be up in full swing this decade. What do you think about creating quote solution segment? Basically discussing finding solutions. Maybe we already do that. Just a thought. Solution segment sounds good with me, wealthy man. The biggest thing is connecting the right individuals that have experience on offering certain expertise in that certain areas. So like for me personally, there's things other than monetary education, that's kind of where I tend to focus. Like I had Alaska Prepper on who focuses on prepping and ways to do it in a cheap fashion. And then there's other people out there who specialize in certain niches. Then I would love to. So I think the best thing to do would have a panel of individuals that have a skill set that can help us all better understand how to take these certain actions in our lives. I'm about that, wealthy man. So give me some suggestions, or anybody out there watching. Who would you want to formulate in like a power team of individuals that are bad as ever in their skill sets that can really kick this thing off? I'm definitely about that. Quantum computer will find the vaccine. Brit VR. Quantum computer is it's gonna crack a lot of things. What are they going to do with that? Yeah, so that being the case, everybody about to dial back. Just want to check in, let you know that Michigan here, we've been divided into 8 regions, and Detroit metropolitan area is going to be one of the last ones. So that means that, we'll see how those first 8 go, and we'll go from there. But once again, apart from bars and all the other stuff, all the fun stuff being closed, everything is normal. So not really too concerned with it. It says, Mike, what do you think about the Space Force Trump is trying to start? Where is that dough coming from? Apart from hearing about it, I never dived into it. I know that there's a lot of nations just racing to get to another planet. Either they see some coming here, or it's just a race to further expand their territory, therefore to expand their control for future generations. So where the funds coming from? Oh man, when you got this reserve currency, that says it all. So the currency itself is definitely there, because all they got to do is just send it. Basically, Jerome Powell could send an email with a couple $100 billion in it, and then the banks can turn that into whatever they need to turn it into. They're good to go. Or as Catherine Austin Fitts and Rob Kirby would say, it's part of that 21 missing trillion plus that no one's been able to give account for. And so it says you are allowed to get some 401k out tax free. Very true. All right, people. With that being the case, just wanted to check in. We got Meltho Nelson says, appreciate the super chat, my friend. Says, fun fact, they've been taking our temperature at the airport long before C-19. Really? Okay, that's a possibility. Not outright, though. I'm assuming they're probably doing it in those little body scanner thingies. Me personally, I've always opted out. I do the body check or the pat down myself. That's just how I get down, but I'm curious to find out. Might get Catherine off the fits on. I will definitely reach out to her. I've never reached out to her just because she usually just, Greg Hunter usually just overdoes it with her. And apart from us all knowing the problems are present, and they mentioned the missing 21 trillion over and over again, but yet once again, you're not going to find it. You don't know who has it. So, and everything is, as they say, everything went dark now. So the dark money, as Rob Kirby calls it, once again, that's just what we know about. So it's more out there. He said, be safe, Mike. Chicago completely 4,000 plus beds. The second wave is coming. Yeah, I don't want it to, but think about this. If there is a second wave, imagine the discomfort that we all experienced or did not experience this last, how many days? 75 days? Give it to 80, 90, whatever days it is, plus times 5, because in order to really make that stick to drive home their point, they're going to be very bold with whatever else they roll out to enforce it, and that's when things going to become problematic. So yeah, but we'll see. But anyway, appreciate you guys for jumping in with me tonight. Just want to check in, say what's up. If you enjoyed this back and forth late night, just want to check in, share with you what's happening in the great state of Michigan. Don't need a thumbs up. Just hit that little button beneath this video here. And if you have any questions or any resources or want to be a blessing to the channel outside of the super chats, information is in the description. And I'll see you guys tomorrow, regular time and regular format. Be blessed. Peace.